Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Socialist presidential candidate Bernie Sanders is wildly popular with the youth, and we keep scratching our heads saying, how in the world do people not understand that there's no way for Bernie Sanders to pay for his $18 trillion plan that he has laid out over the next 10 years? It's going to cost us $18 trillion. We already operate in a deficit. We have no idea how to pay off our debt as it is. Now you want to add even more free stuff for everyone, and saying that the very, very rich will pay for it. Now, even if you slash the entire military budget, it would not cover the $18 trillion. Even if you taxed the 1% at 100% taxes for the 1%, you still would not be able to cover this $18 trillion debt. And so we're wondering, who are these students who are saying, we want free college? We don't know how we're going to pay for it, but we want free college and we want $15 minimum wage, even though we're watching videos of companies letting 1,500 employees know that they're getting their jobs shipped to Mexico, that they'll be out of work, and there aren't any jobs for people. But let's go ahead and raise the minimum wage, and let's just all continue to live in this delusional reality that those workers are not going to be replaced with lower wage workers. Well, now we've got an article coming out that kind of explains, why these young people who probably have never had a job where they earn more than $10 an hour, why they are really feeling the burn. Now, this comes out of the Gateway Pundit. He says Bernie Sanders was a bum who didn't earn a steady paycheck until he was 40 years old. Now, the socialist has wormed his way into politics. And this is coming from Investors Business Daily. Okay, so they're reporting about how Sanders spent most of his life as an angry radical and agitator who never accomplished much of anything. Yet now he thinks he deserves the power to run your life and your finances. One of his first jobs was registering people for food stamps. Then Sanders took his first bride to live in a maple sugar shack with a dirt floor. She soon left him. Penniless, he went on unemployment. Then he was desperate, so he tried out carpentry. Someone who worked with him said he was not a very good carpenter, so that wasn't going to support him. Then he tried his hand freelancing for leftist rags. We have reported on that before. He was writing about masturbation and rape fantasies, all for like $50 a story. They talk about how he drove around in a rusted out car, no working windshield wipers. His friends, these are his friends, saying that he was always poor and his electricity was turned off a lot. They describe him as a slob who kept a messy apartment. So it sort of sounds a lot like a lot of these people who I imagine have these delusions of $15 minimum wage, free college. And of course, now Bernie Sanders is working his way into politics where he's talking about redistributing your wealth. And that's what his friends say he always did very, very good. He was always very good at talking nonstop about socialism and how the rich were ripping everybody off. And I know a lot of these people out there, we have a lot of them here in Austin, Texas, who have this same sort of ideology because they don't want to work. They don't want to go out there and pay for school. Like I'm saddled with a lot of debt. What are they going to do for people like us who we've paid our dues, we're paying our taxes, paying a lot in taxes, frankly, and paying a lot in health care to cover the cost of those who cannot pay for their health care? What are they going to do for people who are saddled with debt? Well, if you are one of those people, you better pay your student loan debt off, because now we have the U.S. Marshal Service arresting people who do not pay their outstanding federal student loans. Jakari Jackson has more.
It seems as though you can get arrested for just about anything these days. Back in 2013, it made national news when a man was arrested for an overdue library book. Police were called to the man's apartment on an unrelated disturbance charge and arrested him after finding that he had a past warrant for an unreturned GED study guide. He was released on a $200 bond and then requested time served. He has since returned the book, but said that he couldn't bring it back initially because he was in prison.
Look, if you think this is about overdue fines and missing books, you better think again. This is about that kid's right to read a book without getting his mind warped. Or maybe that turns you on, Seinfeld. Maybe that's how you get your kicks. You and your good time buddies. Well, I got a flash for you, Joy Boy. Party time is over.
And now we have a story that's debatably just as ridiculous. U.S. Marshals arresting people for not paying federal student loans. And this is the story of Paul Aker, who says he was arrested at his home last week for a $1,500 federal student loan he received back in 1987.
What did you think? There is a U.S. Marshal Service knocking on your door for a $1,500 student loan.
I was wondering, why are you here? I'm home, I haven't done anything, and why are the marshals knocking on my door? It's amazing.
Now, you were arrested, you were in shackles, you were in handcuffs, and where did they take you?
They took me downtown to the federal court.
So whether it's an overdue library book or a student loan, let this be a lesson to all you college kids who owe a hell of a lot more than $1,500. You can find more reports on Infowars.com.
One place where we do see a lot of government waste is Veterans Affairs, and now some really disturbing news coming out of a 2015 inspection. Suicidal veterans were calling the VA crisis hotline, and they were sent to voicemail. This was almost 24 people who called the VA's suicide hotline in fiscal year 2014. They heard nothing but a voicemail message, and this was substantiated after an Inspector General investigation was launched in early 2015. They yielded some unfortunate results. First is the fact that the veterans on the verge of suicide had their calls picked up by a voicemail service. The second failure determined that the VA has no idea if hotline contractors were even trained counselors who could adequately handle mental health issues. And they say what's even worse than that is the fact that the staff had no idea a voicemail messaging system even existed. So naturally, they failed to return these people's phone calls. Now, the VA has until September 30th to implement a set of changes that's been recommended by the Inspector General. This includes hiring more staff, upgrading equipment, and get this, the VA is also required to rewrite some contracts to make sure that the contractors actually have expectations that they must meet. So they don't even have a set standard for expectations. How do they even gauge the performance of a lot of these guys working there? Again, a government waste, and yet Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, they want the government to be even bigger. Meanwhile, they haven't fixed the government that we have that's in place. Now, one group that's also facing some budget cuts there has been running their government a little bit too willy-nilly is ISIS. That's right, they're facing a budget crunch. They're having to cut their perks and trim salaries. So this is after they're being faced with a cash shortage in the so-called caliphate. This is due to airstrikes and other measures. They've had to slash their salaries. They're asking residents to pay utility bills in black market American dollars. And now they're releasing detainees for a price of $500 a person. So these are extremists who once bragged about minting their own currency. And they gained a lot of loyalty building up their militants by giving them good salaries, and they would give them honeymoon and baby bonuses. But now they've even had to cut back on even the smallest perks, which is free energy drinks and Snickers bars. But it's not just their militants, it's anyone that's a civil servant, from the courts to the schools. They've all had their salary cut by 50%. The U.S. government could actually learn a thing from this terrorist organization about how to balance a budget, apparently. And of course, we are in an information war. And it is only by your support out there, by you guys going to the Infowars store and buying our premium quality products, that we are able to do all of this for you. Every single bit of money that we get goes back into this operation. You guys give us the ammo that we need to expand our fight against global tyranny. We've got great products. A lot of them are on sale right now. Super Female Vitality is 20% off right now at the Infowars store. This is formulated with the premium, all-natural, organic herbs. It helps improve your confidence and well-being. I use this product myself. It's done amazing things for me, and it's something you can add to your diet as an overall natural balance for women out there. And you can also help support the InfoWar by going to prisonplanet.tv and becoming a member. As always, You can get instant access to over 18 years worth of content, and you can share your username and password with up to 20 people at the same time. Your support helps the InfoWar. And you know, if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure and hit the subscribe button there as well. Share all of our videos with your friends, post them to Facebook, just bombard the system with this information. We will see you all here again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central.
Brain Force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're gonna crash and gonna feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.